Hey, welcome back to Stories with Dave. This is Hokey Pokey. Link in the description to your very own print copy. This is Chapter 6, Althea Reigns in Shangry. This is Part 1 of Chapter 6. Slump Bryant preferred to let Althea welcome visitors to the farm. He found that with just one word from her, they came to an immediate, crystal clear understanding of where the F it was they was standing, and could then decide, having the benefit of all the really pertinent information, whether they wanted to stand there any longer. If you stood close enough to Althea, you could feel her suck your lungs back some. There was no mistaking that voice. When Althea spoke, people listened. She said, "Doom." Nipper had known Althea's voice since he was just a yard monkey, and you could say I wouldn't be lying if you did. He had developed a real soft spot for the sound of her over the years. It was what sweet summer memories sounded like, and no different, no less dear to him in that way than the sound of first frogs of late spring, or the roar of summer cicadas, and the mating calls of bullfrogs at night, and the hum of a distant lawnmower on a hazy July evening with the lightning bugs floating up these twilit canopies of oak. Yes, the sound of old Althea's voice, though perhaps grumpy and startling, was no less sweet to him than those other things, no less natural, no less essential to the magic and mathematics of being a child turned loose to swim through summer's cauldron on the Cumberland Plateau. "Man," he was telling Co-Talker as they meandered down Martin's Creek Road toward old Slump's place at the base of Bryant Ridge one morning, "when we was kids, they lived pretty close to us. And, of course, that was before old Slump took over the family place down here. But they lived real close, and they had this peach orchard, man, and every summer it was like playing sharks and minnows trying to creep in there and steal some of them peaches. And you would not believe the shit kids used to pull out of their ass and thighs after they got home. This one old boy, I'll never forget him. He got good. He done got but good. And he wasn't even bleeding a little. His folks told him to suck it up, you know. There was just a little rock salt and all, and it would dissolve after a while. But that shit got infected later on. Real infected. And it didn't dissolve neither. Don't you know that doctor pulled a half dozen daggum Barbie doll parts out of that boy's ass? Little hands and feet and shit. Freaked the living shit out of the doctor. Said he'd never seen nothing like it before. But he was real cool about it and let that boy keep them hands and feet and everything. If I can remember, his name was Tommy. Tommy Wiggins, man. If I had them hands and feet, I reckon I'd turn them into a necklace or something like that." Martin's Creek Road wove among the thickets of pioneer stands of sapling trees that traced the progress of Martin's Creek on its westward journey to the Cumberland River. Here, hillsides rose almost straight as walls from narrow ribbons of rich black bottomland so deep that it got only 6 or 7 hours of direct sunlight each day in the summer. 100 years ago, everything from Martin's Creek to Buffalo Valley was sacred Cherokee bison hunting ground. Sacred. If you were a Cherokee, or so Nipper's papa had told him, it was illegal to build anything on that land more permanent than a seasonal hunting wickiup. That land was for the bison and the spirits. Normally this time of year, the valley bottom became a spongy gray extension of the creek itself. But spring had come early, and it was warmer than it should have been for mid-March. High above the men's dusty serpentine progress, all along the narrow, jagged twist of Bryant's Ridge Road, the redbuds and dogwoods had just come into bloom against the almost transparent, ephemeral green of new life, causing a cascade of pink and white blossoms down the ridgesides and into the woods along the edges of the valley. Just above the ridge, a solitary redtail circled high on a thermocline, scanning the forest floor for sudden small movements. Triple-canopied deciduous jungle would reclaim almost every inch of these hills in time it took to complete the millennial census count, casting the world beneath them into a perpetual green twilight that was home to fanged night crawlers, apex predators, and hill folk. It was the kind of green in which a fellow could really keep a secret. Slump's old family place lay just along a pronounced curve in the road beneath a granite thumb behind a stand of conifers at the top of a narrow holler that cut back into the hillside, where a seep had eroded the stone and earth over time. He lived in the old farmhouse that his papa's daddy had built with his own hands, with a wraparound porch that his papa had built high enough to command a view of the land on all sides. And besides that farmhouse, there was a small shop building and a hay barn, and a big chicken coop the Slump built between the house and the tiny creek that was what the seat became once it finally got down to the ridge to old Slump's place. He had half a garage, half barn where he stored a small tractor and a half dozen other machines in various states of cannibalization. The entrance from Martins Creek Road was a big open gate made of 2 lodge poles with a cross member across the top, from the center of which hung a little wood-burned sign that said Shangry. It's a play on words, Slump was fond of saying. Just be cool, man, Nipper said as they passed under the sign. He may take a second to remember me, or he may be a little drunk. Just don't say nothing, especially if he's holding that old Althea, till you're sure in your gut everything's cool. What in the hell does that mean, sure in my gut? You know, like intuitively cool. Intuitively cool? That's right. But what exact? Dome, Althea said, no farther than 3 feet away, casting them all into a great whirl of black smoke with glitter drifting through it. Smoky glitter dissipated on the breeze, gradually revealing the source of all the laughter. Old Slump lay on his side in the yard beside the porch, rocking back and forth, bedazzled in glitter, still cradling the old blunderbuss, which seemed to be smoldering a little with the business in it. Code Talker and Nipper sat dumbfounded, in shock, slack-jawed, strapped into their seatbelts. By God, you look like 2 cave crickets the way you hit the roof of that truck, Slump said. Nipper, you hit it so hard, son, you look like you was trying to hit it. Slump went into another flit of laughter, and then he caught his breath and stood up and stopped laughing and looked Code Talker up and down and said, Whose boy are you? Thanks for joining me. Tune in next time for part 2 of Chapter 6, Althea Reigns in Shangri-La.